and welcome to episode 3 of Exit Only Theater Podcast. I'm JP Lee, and in front of me is...
I was trying to think of something funny, and it totally didn't work.
Oh, God.
It's alright, this is Adrian and No, we're totally gonna keep going. We're not gonna restart, guys.
Oh, God. Okay, this is a great sign for episode 3.
Bring it!
I don't even know how to regroup. He recovered from that better than I did. I looked at him like a deer in headlights. Okay, so episode 3, we've taken some feedback from our fans and kind of evaluated the movie slate this past weekend and decided we didn't want to see Ted 2. And since we both have to still pay for the movies we review because we're not sponsored yet, we decided we were going to do something a little different. We're not going to talk about Ted 2. If you guys saw it, let us know what you thought, and if it was actually really good, we'll take your word for it and maybe go see it this weekend.
Yeah.
You know, we're not opposed to it. We just, in the past couple of days, we figured, why force something? The conversation's not going to be genuine if we don't want to watch the movie.
The demand's not great, but the most important thing from what you just said, we actually have fans. Yes.
Yes.
And we love you guys, all 6 of you.
Thank you, Mom.
Yes.
And Adrian's mom. Everyone's family. Thank you.
I'm going to name off every one of my pets. And by pets, I mean the birds that hang out by my window.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We just watched a bunch of Ace Ventura scenes, so if there's any reference to that, I think it's all subconscious.
Oh, it's coming.
It's yeah, you've been warned.
Alrighty then, let's get started.
Yo, nice segue, sir.
Alrighty.
Yeah, so we're gonna start off with our news.
I
I think that was his like weird news line kind of music.
I scored my own music.
He's not paid for it, so you can tell it's pretty
obviously.
Good. Well, I'll start with my first story. For me, it's actually Robert Zemeckis made the news for something Back to the Future related.
Oh.
He's my hero for this, actually. So someone had asked him about the possibility of Back to the Future being remade in some point, because that's just what's going on with every movie made pretty much before 1995.
Yeah.
Or on 1995, like the Power Rangers movies. That may or may not be something to talk about in the future.
That was not a climax.
That was just awkward, and I have to sit in front of him for the next hour.
That's what they all say.
Robert Zemeckis! So, he was asked about the possibility of the remake happening at some point down the line. And he said, quote, "Oh, God, no. That can't happen until screenwriter Bob Gale and I are dead." Which I thought was fantastic, because I thought it was hyperbole and just amazing that he would say it.
Yeah.
It turns out that he and Gale have contracts with Universal and Amblin that say that they have like final say in the production of any movie or anything based off of the Back to the Future series until they die. So it's not even, he wasn't being facetious, he wasn't exaggerating, he was just genuinely saying, like, you'd have to kill us before anything like this happens. So he's protecting a property that is very near and dear to my heart. I'm sure you watched it a ton of times as a kid.
I love it. Like, even though, like, that clause of theirs that says, like, you know, over my dead body.
Yeah,
like,
that's
a pretty
dramatic.
great clause to have. That could kind of backfire, but in this case, it's good.
It's good, and it's surprising because being Amblin and Steven Spielberg's property, I mean, he's going out of his way to help recreate a lot of his original stuff. So it's kind of fun that they're like, we saw this coming, so no. So I thought that was pretty cool. It's nothing really to elaborate on. I just wanted to give him some props.
I love him. All right, so the next story on our rundown goes. The movie Rampage. The hottest star in Hollywood right now is Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, and he has been reportedly set to lead the video game adaptation Rampage. For those of you that haven't been keeping track of what Johnson's been up to, he has a bit of a hot streak going on right now. He's currently slated to not only return to Fast and Furious 8, he's also co-starring with Kevin Hart in the action film Central Intelligence, and also leading the remake of Big Trouble in Little China. And by the way, you know, he has his own HBO show called Ballers, and that just kicked off his first episode. Well, it's actually 2 episodes in now. If you're not watching that, please watch it because it's actually pretty good.
Is it good? I haven't jumped in yet.
Oh, it's really good, man.
All right,
like,
check it out.
it's just, a lot of people wanted to compare it to Entourage, but this one actually has a point.
I like the sports world twist.
It gives an angle that it reminds me of Any Given Sunday, but less depressing.
Okay.
So it's pretty cool.
Always a good sign.
But yeah, for those of you that don't know anything about Rampage, it's a game obviously that I really love. That's why I kind of picked this, favorite movie star and favorite game. Yeah, it's a classic '80s arcade game made by Midway, and it involves 3 giant monsters: a gorilla, a lizard, and a wolf. that wreak havoc through major cities and landmarks across America. So yeah, of course I love this damn game. Hell yeah, man. You put a rock, a lizard, and a gorilla. Did I say a rock? Yeah, I said the rock. Yeah, I meant if you put the rock against a gorilla, a lizard, and a wolf.
It was a general article. Just a rock.
Dude, that's like a trick question. He's all of those things. But yeah, I'm excited to see that. I'm glad he's in more things. The more action films he is, and the more he works out, the better, man. Because he looks like a complete badass.
Someone said he's film Viagra. He infuses a little extra something into every movie he's in. Dude, yeah. And I
wish I was just life Viagra. You know.
That's a completely different discussion.
Is it? All right.
This always snowballs into that direction to keep bringing it back. Okay, so my second news story is actually just a small note. I'm a bit of an Oscar movie nut. I know that we talk about how you enjoy the
Oscars.
The summer blockbusters maybe a little bit more than I like when movies come from like September on sometimes more. I don't know. I just like I like just picking apart movies that are being asked to be picked apart, basically. Yeah. But my second story is just a quick note on the fact that the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences has added more than 100 new voting members to its ranks, and they've actually, the big news is not that because they do that every year. Yeah. But one of the things is that they've tried to diversify their group a little bit more, which is exciting because I think in the last couple of years it said in 2012 94% of Oscar voters were white and 77% of them were male. So in the last year they've decided to invite David Oyelowo, which I said correctly, I think, which I'm very proud of myself. That's correct, yeah. John Legend, Common, Kevin Hart, Dev Patel, a lot of, just diverse people into the group. A lot of young names. They have Daniel Radcliffe, Tom Hardy, which goes, it's not necessarily adding to the diversity of the mix, but it's inviting a new voice to the stage, which is kind of exciting. And I'm sure it's not going to fix the problem altogether, but it's reminding them that they're aware of a problem, which is kind of cool. So
the one thing they need to fix, I know, like the color barrier is still there. And I know, coincidentally, it seems like they just invited the entire cast from Selma.
Which was a backhanded compliment considering how good that film was. And it didn't get much love.
I will say this, though. The lack of female representation is embarrassing. Yeah. And, this is the thing that a lot of people don't understand in the film industry. Yes, it's difficult to be black, to be Mexican and get a leading role, whether it be in a big film or even a smaller film. It's even more difficult to be a woman in a leading film or to be directing one. I remember a lot of directors that I knew in Chicago that I would work film festivals with, and they would be like, look, like they were depressed every time. They're like, look, you're probably going to have a better start to your career because you're a dude. And after that, you're just like, well,
it's sobering, but it's true. I mean, you have to work harder for certain people.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate. That's why I could give like a rat's ass about the Oscars. As much as I would like to win one, I would just rather be on a big stage and just be like, look, here's a trophy. This will mean nothing to me. Look, that's just the truth.
No, it's true. I think growing up, I always assumed it was like, oh, I don't want to be famous. I just want to be respected by my peers. But it's nice to see that they're actually adding to that group of peers that are going to judge. So it's a step in the right direction, I think.
Definitely.
What's your next story?
All right, mine story, and obviously you're going to get a theme here. Ben Affleck, a.k.a. Batfleck.
Oh, God.
Has been reportedly going to be directing his own Batman film in 2018. Don't you dare say no. All right, the Latino Review is reporting that Ben Affleck will be directing a standalone Batman film due out in 2018 called The Batman.
Sorry.
His bud and screenwriter Chris Terrio, nominated. He was also on the Oscar-winning Argo. He wrote the Argo film. Will be writing the screenplay for Affleck. Affleck and Terrio were similarly a package deal for Warner Brothers when they brought them in to be a part of this DC cinematic universe.
I'm intrigued.
Terrio and Affleck worked together on Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, which is out next year. Okay. And both are returning for Justice League 1. Justice League 2. So these two are actually pretty important to when it comes to the developing of the universe. Yeah. So these two are probably the most important because the dude's writing all these movies. And Affleck
it's a lot of faith in him.
You probably have like the most loved character amongst everybody. Superman obviously is a name, but everybody loves Batman right now.
Yeah. The current landscape of just American society likes Batman more than
and this kind of gives you a hint as to how Affleck was able to accept this. Not so much being offered it, but to accept the role of being Batman. Because when he was cast, everybody's like, that's kind of, even though like it kind of makes sense,
but now it
comes out of left field. But the reason why is because they probably came at him and was like, look, dude, we want you to play Batman, and he's probably like, no, sorry, but nothing. Dude, we'll let you direct a Batman.
Yeah, on
movie.
Its face, you're like, why would
just
you do that?
Just think about how cool that is. The guy who directed The Town, the guy who directed Argo, and
he's
that's
making
pretty
smart action-packed movies.
That's the thing he does. He's a very smart director. Say what you want about him as an actor.
Which I don't have that much bad to say about him as an actor. I think his early part of his career you could challenge.
Yeah, but I think it's an exciting time to be a comic book fan. So you're getting quality directors, and I think DC's doing the right thing. Hopefully Dawn of Justice hits, and it's like really good. So we could see the rest of this universe develop.
They are putting all their eggs in one basket, proverbially, so. Yeah. But it's a good basket to be in. Yeah. No, that's really exciting.
Put the lotion in the basket.
I didn't realize that actor is in Wild Wild West. Yeah. Just a bit of a... Anyway.
I can't even do it.
No. Save it for later. We may be talking about that film in a little bit. My third news story is actually Marvel related, so I'm bringing some news of the superhero world.
Oh my god! It's spreading. It
deserves that reaction.
I'm the only guy that does the comic book stuff, but no, go ahead. I'm excited to see what you have to have.
So we obviously, the big news this week was that, yay, we finally cast a Spider-Man, and he's not a 27-year-old pretending to be a high schooler. Yeah. Tom Holland is chosen as a age-appropriate Spider-Man. We know this. What to me was interesting was that our Mr. Kevin Feige.
That's correct. Feige? See, she's learning.
I'm getting it. I'm writing things down phonetically. I'm figuring it out. Especially when you only read names, you're just like Hermione. I thought it was Hermione until I was like 11. That's when the first movie came out.
Hermione.
Don't even let it go. The big news, I think, for me, as I wasn't a huge comic book reader, I was more of the person who appreciates the film adaptations, is the fact that Kevin Feige recently, in his tour of the Ant-Man, campaign.
The press tours,
Yeah, he's been all over the place, kind of talking about the entire Marvel Universe and where they're headed. Yeah. He's been hinting at the fact that the new Spider-Man, now that they have more creative control over the brand, is going to be very John Hughes inspired, which I was very intrigued by. So he said, quote, real quick, Spider-Man, it's the soap opera in high school, and those supporting characters, that's what makes it interesting. Just as we hadn't seen a heist movie in a long time, or a shrinking movie in a long time, like Ant-Man, we haven't seen a John Hughes movie in a long time. Not that we can say we can make a John Hughes movie, only John Hughes could, but we're inspired by him, and merging that with the superhero genre in a way we haven't done before excites us. I'm super excited about that. I don't know how they could execute that necessarily. I don't know who's going to be on board to, execute that vision. I don't know who's going to write it per se. Maybe there's more information that I haven't read into it, but I love the idea of grounding it in real characters that are age-specific and can kind of give a real realism to it and actually build into the universe from there. So I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, the one thing I am like this is the thing, it sounds great and everything, but again, it's very, for those of you who haven't been following it, for those of you that don't follow superhero movies, specifically the Marvel movies, is that this sounds very Sony-like. If you remember when they cast Andrew Garfield and then they picked a Mark Webb to direct the Spider-Man movies, he recently came out 500 Days of Summer. And that was his only movie that he ever directed. Right. And, when you look at it, you're like, oh, Spider-Man was in high school. He was with a really cute girl, Emma Stone.
But the first one was good.
The first one was good. It was solid,
so he did what he originally intended to do. I just think that they lost control of where they wanted to go with it. I think they're like, they were surprised that it went so well, having rebooted after 5 years, that they rushed the second one, and then that was just a train wreck.
It's kind of like, to make the kind of like the comparison, it's like it's kind of like when the studio hits puberty. When Spider-Man graduates high school, shit. Yeah. It's like, it's like, what do I do with us? Like, I don't know how I feel about myself anymore. Maybe I should have villains. Let's throw all the villains in there.
It's a weird quarter-life crisis. I just don't want to be a part of it.
Sony, the problem, I think, what Marvel's doing, there is one thing I'm excited about, is that they're leaving him in high school. He's not graduating.
And it's not an origin story. It's not an origin story. Pick up where you go.
Yeah, because the thing about Spider-Man is he's one of the most, powerful characters in the Marvel universe.
He's arguably one of the most relatable.
Yeah, but he's not rich. Nope. He's a freaking teenager. He has girlfriend problems. And he's not. Yeah, he's smart. He's clever, but he's not hyper intelligent like Tony Stark or anything like that. Right. So he's most powerful, but he's also the most interesting because of all those, I guess, imperfections. And since he's not really developed as a human being, let alone a superhero.
Right.
So
They're converging
it's
at the same
exciting.
time.
Let's see them capture that. Until then, I'm gonna sell on this being a great idea.
It's okay to be very skeptical for this. I think that is the perfect direction to go.
Cool. All right. So the last piece of news that we have is also another comic book hero news, but this one's actually kind of exciting to me because there's a lot of layers to it.
Okay.
All right, so rumors are that the newest Green Lantern film in the newly formed DCCU, that's DC Cinematic Universe, will have a storyline that follows multiple Green Lanterns. This may include the characters Hal Jordan, John Stewart, and possibly Guy Gardner being in the film. In the comics, Green Lanterns are located across the universe as they're an intergalactic police force who wield powerful rings whose energy is derived from their users' willpower. The focus of this film seems kind of cool because, well, this potential film is that because it's going to be centered on the core, the Green Lantern core, more than just one individual hero. But now this is where the news starts getting interesting because it was previously reported that Chris Pine, aka Captain Kirk in the Star Trek films recently, was being sought out for the role of Steve Trevor, which is Wonder Woman's love interest in the comics.
Okay.
And he was circling that. There were rumors that he met with DC for that. But that may have been a smokescreen. So
really?
that may have been a distraction. The Latino Review reports that Pine's talks were actually for the role of Hal Jordan, which is like the most popular Green Lantern character of them all. Huh. So, but this is the thing though. It was also portrayed by Ryan Reynolds in 2011's garbage film, The Green Lantern.
Oh, right.
Obviously, a little bit about Hal Jordan. Jordan is the most known Lantern from Earth, and I assume he'll kind of be like the point person of the group if they choose to stick with this storyline. Right. And Jordan's like a fighter pilot who was chosen to don the ring by the character Abin Sur.
Okay.
Yeah, and then, but no, there's even more news about this. There's another layer, and this is where it kind of gets really like, whoa, like this is kind of
there could be some complexity.
There's some exciting. Yeah. I don't know about complexity, but it's a little bit. It's randomness. Fast 7 star
Tyrese. That's the same thing.
Yeah, that's true. Fast 7 star Tyrese Gibson has long campaigned for the role of John Stewart. He's a big comic book fan, surprised it or not, in the potential Green Lantern film, but it was assumed that it was led to nothing, so he was kind of like, hey, I want to be in a Green Lantern. They're like, oh, he's just talking. However, in an interview with Entertainment Tonight, Gibson said the following: there are certain things I can't speak on, but I will say, however this works out, it's definitely the fans' fault. I was at home minding my own business, and fans started creating these fan-made videos of me as Green Lantern. And I looked into it. I've been a fan of the Green Lantern. I took the oath, and I had a meeting with Warner Brothers.
Oh my gosh.
And certain things were said and talked about. We'll just see what happens. Gibson also, on his Instagram, posted a split-screen photo with he and Chris Pine in Green Lantern uniforms with the caption, "Shit just got real. # double trouble."
Oh my god.
So this... Yeah, we don't know. This may mean that he was cast. Maybe he's in the movie. And, for those of you that don't know the character John Stewart was an architect from Detroit who was called into action when Guy Gardner, the other Green Lantern, went into a coma. So, like, for me, this is big news just because, one, this may be the first time anybody's ever campaigned for a superhero role and actually got it.
Could be getting it, yeah. He's, like, strong-arming Warner Brothers through social media.
And I think he'd get away with it just because if they weren't planning on doing a John Stewart film, they're like, you know what, let's just put him in the movie. Fine, we'll screw it. Whatever. Yeah. But I think this is an exciting premise. I think this kind of show, this could be like the Guardians of the Galaxy for DC, because you're centering on a bunch of dudes protecting Earth and different quadrants of the universe, and you don't have to be on Earth, you don't have to be fighting something that's realistic.
They're not held back by anything.
They're not held back by anything. You already had the bad film. You had it. It's like, all right, cool. We know now what not to do. And if Chris Pine's a superstar in my eyes. He's really good. But no, yeah, I think that's really interesting. Keep your eye out for that when we have our Comic-Con special show. Hopefully, we have something to reveal for you.
It's interesting, though, because it's like the Green Lantern had its unsuccessful attempt in theaters in the same way that Spider-Man has.
Yeah.
But they're basically like almost freed by it, whereas Spider-Man feels like there's a pressure to succeed.
Spider-Man, there's definitely a pressure because as well as the first two, like the ones by Sam Raimi did, because all of them did well financially. This is the thing, like all of them were hits. But the biggest problem with Spider-Man is that we've seen so much of him.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, eventually, either you get it right, or the fans will be like, dude, just go away. Like, look at what happened with Batman after George Clooney messed it up. Well, it's not his fault. But,
no, but that particular film.
When Bat Nipples happened, Nipplegate, it's...
Why?
You have to kind of put it in cryo sleep for a while. And with Green Lantern, no one's really campaigning for a Green Lantern movie. Yeah, we're excited. Like as a fan, you're excited for the DC universe to be created.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, look, they're still developing everything, and I think the reason that film didn't hit, and the reason it didn't really have a direction, was because the studio didn't have a direction. It's not like Marvel Studios where they mapped out their plan through 2028.
Right.
Yeah, they're like, there wasn't, oh, there's an Avengers movie coming out. Like, this is going to build toward that.
Right.
That one didn't. It was just a standalone thing. It's like, hey, let's do a random story, and they just completely didn't. They missed on it.
Yeah.
They had a great casting in Ryan Reynolds, but it just didn't work. They weren't ready.
It's not overexposed like Spider-Man. Basically.
But I'm excited for this. I think that's really cool. But that is all the news we have for today because we want to get into, this is 4th of July week. So since we're not reviewing a movie this week, because screw Ted 2, we don't want to see Ted 2. We saw Ted 1, and I'm assuming it's more of the same. But since it's 4th of July week, we kind of want to keep the theme going of 4th of July movies. Like this is like the weekend where, this is the action movie season and whatever. And
exactly.
Who was the king of the 4th of July weekend? Do you know who?
I mean, money wise, physically, he had 5 movies that came out in the past, I think, 15 years, 20 years that were July 4th. I mean, blockbuster craziness. Yeah. I know who it is. Yeah. Do you want? I mean, you're setting it up.
No, go ahead. It's Will Smith.
Yeah.
And so we're like, you know what? When you talk about 4th of July weekend, especially during our age group, you think of Will Smith.
Absolutely.
And we haven't seen him in a 4th of July movie for a long time, and there's a big reason why. Because you could pick. Obviously, you could say, oh, dude, Men in Black. Oh man, Independence Day. That was awesome. We're not talking about that. We're talking about the terrible one. We're talking about Wild Wild West. Yeah, that was released on June 30th. Actually, a year. Look at that. That's like not a year, but no, that was June 30th, 1999.
Which is funny because it's a year to the day today.
Yeah,
as we're recording this.
Yeah, so because we're recording on Tuesday, June 30th. Happy birthday, my brother. Hey.
Hey.
But yeah, here's a quick synopsis of the movie. When we're reviewing this movie, because it's interesting because Will Smith's career kind of, I don't want to say changed, but like after he did this, there was an alter in how he thought about picking movies.
He got a scare in his career.
I'm definitely going to point that out in a little bit later. But here's a quick synopsis of the movie for those of you who don't know it. Yeah, when President Ulysses S. Grant, played by Kevin Kline, learns that a diabolical inventor, Dr. Arliss Lovelace, played by the great Kenneth Branagh, is planning to assassinate him, he orders Civil War hero James West, played by Will Smith, and U.S. Marshal Artemus Gordon, also played by Kevin Kline, to arrest him. West's trigger-happy personality doesn't always mesh well with that of the thoughtful Gordon, but they manage to work together. And with the help of a mysterious stranger, played by Salma Hayek, West and Gordon close in on Loveless. And if you're thinking, oh, I never saw that movie, and you heard that, that's as bad as it is, man.
Yeah, like, the plot doesn't require you to be paying that much attention. No. It's not a deep plot.
Yeah. So what'd you think of the movie? Okay, like you saw, like we've seen the movie. I saw it in theaters when I was a kid.
Yeah. As did I.
Now, really quick, like.
I'm glad you're starting it this way. I think it needs to be started this way.
Like really quick, when you watched it as a kid, what was your thoughts?
Versus.
No, just right now.
Just right now.
Just really quick. Well, when you first saw it as a kid, what did you think?
I was 10. I loved Will Smith. I loved the movie.
Awesome.
That was as far as I allowed myself to get.
Okay. Now, when you watched it yesterday for our retro reel, what do you think about it now?
I'm 26. I still like Will Smith. I hated the movie. I still see why I loved it. Yeah. So I can see it through both lenses. But I like almost fell asleep a few times just because so many things weren't working. Yeah. But I'm willing to defend why I liked it at the same time. So I think it's going to be an interesting argument where I think you and I are going to argue a few details. Yeah. And I feel like 10-year-old me is going to be like, no, that worked so well. Yeah. So there could be 3 people in this conversation. Yeah. Like,
just really quick, I thought, like, as a kid, I loved it. It was like, dude, this is kind of, Will Smith was in his prime. Right. I didn't know who Kevin Kline was, but I'm like, dude, that guy's charismatic. I really like him. I still love him. I think
Me too.
When these guys are alone on screen, when they're not with each other, they're awesome. When they're together on screen, I'm like, shoot me in the face.
It didn't work. They like didn't like each other, it seemed like.
Yeah, it totally didn't. You could tell like they were like, you know what, let's not act together. Yeah. Let's just kind of have a conversation.
We have lines on camera together. We're not going to actually interact.
But no, go ahead. Like, what are your thoughts on the movie? Good first. How about that?
Good. Okay. I forgive a lot of the plot details in the fact that it is absurd.
Jeez, you must be like a priest or something because I'm not as forgiving.
Okay, so I feel like as a kid I went for the ride and I I liked the production design. I didn't know what steampunk was back then. I don't even know if that term existed in 1999. Now that's what we claim it to be.
Yeah.
But I loved that. I loved the concept of just Will Smith just being like it's basically Will Smith being Will Smith in Independence Day, Will Smith in Men in Black.
It was a total vehicle for him.
Yeah, oh my god, yeah.
It was just like, hey, just be you, dude. We'll throw a lot of money. Just get on stage.
Which I loved when I was a kid, and I think that's what made me resent it in seeing it again 15 years later. I was like, this movie, I'm being taken out of it because it's just Will Smith being Will Smith with a cowboy hat on. It was just kind of like, Cary Grant could do that in the 40s and 50s because he was Cary Grant. Like, that's what George Clooney does now.
Yeah.
But for some reason, as time goes by, it's staled. It was just 15 years later, I'm like, oh, that's why adults hated it. Like, it wasn't as forgiving when you were,
because this was canned by everybody.
Oh,
like, this is the thing, like back in the day, obviously as kids, we don't give a damn about, reviews or anything like that, or critics. But
I wouldn't
this
have known
movie,
what it looked as a kid,
I knew people hated this movie. Because, for, there's one reason I'll get into a bit later, because there was a big mistake on career part that Will Smith
oh my
made.
God, I know.
But, no, for me...
That was almost my trivia fact for the day.
But, what I liked about it, and you said it yourself, this was kind of like an amusement park ride in the making.
Yeah.
When you watch it, you're like, oh, that's a ride. You're moving. You're constantly, the scenics. It looked really cool. There were a lot of neat little tricks, like when Will Smith's in the room with Mrs. East, coincidentally.
Oh, yeah,
The only freaking Asian lady's also named Mrs. East.
But it gave him a chance to have witty dialogue together.
And there was a scene where instead of paintings, there were these dudes with holding guns,
which confused me as a kid.
It was pretty cool, though.
Which was good. It was cool.
pretty cool. And I was like, I would like that in my house, but I don't think I could afford to pay anybody just to stand there with a gun. And if anybody does try to kill me, shoot him, but, hold your pose.
No, just stay there, just in case someone should go in there. It's funny you say that, because I remember watching it as a kid and being a little confused, because I didn't realize he'd shot, 4 or 5 other ones in the room. Yeah. So I just thought, I was like, it's the random hunter. He's, there, but he looks 2D. I was, not believing it even at 10. Yeah. And then when I watched it again, I was like, I'm gonna let it go, because anything and everything is happening in this movie. Yeah. So I was like, it's stupid, but I loved it. Yeah. I don't know why, and it bothers me that I liked it.
Yeah, we'll just transition to the battery, because there's not much good in this movie. Yeah. This is the thing. I watched it,
I'll find
and
moments I liked.
I was like, there were really good jokes. I was just like, haha, yeah. Get it, Klein.
But it didn't carry as much.
It didn't carry. It was very shallow. The jokes were cheesy. They were quipping on old racist stereotypes,
Which they felt more flat now than they did when I was a kid.
It was ridiculously, it was really sexual movie. It really was. The weird...
I have an argument about that, but say something.
Yeah, it's just, all the women were pretty much just, all the characters were sex objects. Yeah. Selma Hayek was a moron.
She was. But
it's just...
We'll come back
to Selma. Did you notice the dick apparatus? The thing where... There was a scene, you know what I'm talking about. The disc scene, when Will Smith and Kevin Kline are caught, and they're in that little circle where they're like, don't escape from there, or else you'll get, cut off. Well, and then all of a sudden they show the dick apparatus. And it was this...
But Loveless had a line that was saying, don't you think that I could create something that could pleasure a woman? And then it cuts to that, and I'm like, that's not it, is it?
And I'm just like,
I was like, no. I got very uncomfortable.
That train got hard. I'm like, I don't know how he did it, but I'm like, I guess that was the first mechanical Viagra. Who knows?
Possibly.
But
I definitely caught that the second time around.
No, but oh my gosh. I love, this is the thing, they had great actors on it too. Yeah. Will Smith, this is before he went serious. Kevin Kline, Kenneth Branagh, Ted Levine. If you guys don't remember, Ted Levine's like the deep voice guy that talks all like this. I can't even do it because that's a hard accent to name.
Oh no, it's super tough. I didn't even know it was him until maybe. Yeah,
he plays Bloodbath McGrath, and he's mostly known for Silence of the Lambs, which he did Buffalo Bill, and he did an awesome job of that. But we got this garbage. Branagh showed up. But with his ridiculous accent, which was awesome.
Branagh was in on the joke. I don't even know if Barry Sonnenfeld, the director, even knew he was in on the joke. But Branagh read the script, and I feel like classically trained Branagh would be like, no, I'm not touching this with a 10-foot pole.
Because that's a Shakespearean actor. That's the thing. He was
incredible. Yeah. He's an incredible actor. But I think he was like, oh, this is going to be a tongue-in-cheek, sci-fi Western. That's how you should read it. And that's not how anyone else portrayed their characters.
Not at all.
He was a great B-movie villain. Yeah. He was fun. He was over the top. His mannerisms matched his crazy facial hair, which matched his ridiculous accent.
Whatever do you mean? that guy has the greatest accent ever.
So good, and it didn't fit with anything else, which almost is a reflection of. It's a reflection of the whole movie more than him. But
but I just like the way he said Appomattox. Appomattox. I don't know what that is. Appomattox.
Yeah, I didn't hear anything else he said.
I'd name my dog that if I ever had one.
But I want to get back to Selma Hayek for a second because I watched it and I feel like I was trying to find a good thing about it.
Yeah.
And I came away with there were moments where I feel like she was using her like feminist qualities to manipulate the guys onto the train. So, like, yeah, she was really stupid and this and that, but everything she did was deliberate to get to Escobar.
Yes.
You know
I agree with that,
The reason why it falls flat and doesn't work is because she would say lines like, oh, he's so gorgeous, oh, he's so slick, when no one else is paying attention.
Yeah.
So they're only used as cheap jokes. Yeah. So it completely ruins the idea that she could have been, like, a complicated feminist character. She totally wasn't. She was just there for the jokes.
That's a good justification.
There was a moment for that, and it didn't work. It was like, it was almost there, and then just threw it away.
This is the thing, like, she looked amazing. This is the thing, like, I completely forgot how hot. Like, she's still attractive now, but she looks amazing.
Yeah.
And I'm not just saying that, oh, I'm a dude, this is how I'm going to compliment a girl.
No. I mean, I could appreciate her.
But I will say this, like, the way they treated her character was just so ridiculous. Yeah. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say, oh my god, you know, like, what the fuck?
No, we're not going to
like, look, the movie was what it was, yeah. But at the same time, I'm just like, alright, guys.
But you could see her playing both of them, though. Like,
she was playing both of them, but, like, the
cheap jokes ruined it from both sides, you know?
Yeah, like, the breath of fresh ass line.
But don't tell me you don't remember that
The
line.
breath of fresh ass.
And the breast of fresh air.
Oh my god. I'm just like, look, like...
But 10-year-old us were like,
like
you giggle at it.
And this is the thing, like, in the movie, and this is kind of how we're going to close this, is... Like, what happens is Lovelace kidnaps all the brightest scientists across the U.S.
Right.
to create his ultimate weapon. And what is that weapon?
An 80-foot tarantula.
It's a pardon my language, but it's a fucking spider. The guy builds a spider.
Yeah.
You got the brightest scientists. Like, you know what? We can make the world's first, like, legit bomb.
Yeah.
You know what, man? Nah.
Even the device he had when they took out the troops.
Yeah, like the tank,
functional.
the rotating tank was actually. I'm like, hey, that's practical. We could totally use that.
There's a lot of
like, you know what? Nah, scrap that idea. I got an idea. It's a spider.
I want an 8-legged creature with bombs on its
We're always gonna fight in the mountains because that's when it's perfect.
It's
that's
like
the
Dr.
only thing
Evil
that makes
with
sense.
sharks with laser beams.
It's just like laser.
But at least that was like a blatant joke. This was him just being like, I'm maniacal. This is what I want.
So, like, this is the thing. Like, the movie's bad. If you have nothing to watch, it's kind of just one of those movies that you like to laugh at, not with.
It's a fun hour and a half.
You know what? You kind of have to appreciate bad movies at the same time. So,
Agreed.
That's what we'll leave it. Happy 4th of July. God, let's erase this movie from our heads. All right.
10-year-old me's like, no, it's good.
All right, so what do we have next?
We have next our Cinema Cinco. Okay, I'm shuffling my papers. We decided, since it's 4th of July week...
4th of July.
Is it Arliss?
Oh no, that was just
or is
me.
That just you?
That was just
him. I mean, you've got to appreciate. He's got all these voices. I might not tell you next time when he is doing a voice. You might think there's a guest.
This is the thing.
Here.
Like, that's just me, man. I have voices all day.
If you bring Alan Rickman out a couple times,
I was in her edit room.
People might actually think he's here.
Yeah, you should tell them about the Sean Connery stories. Like, when I'm in the edit room with you, I'm just like,
he does do a mean Sean Connery.
Prepare the clip.
It's usually when I'm trying to work too, so I'm like, come on, man.
Don't get so sassy now, mister. I can't do it.
Focus, man.
The damage is done.
He's gonna say his Cinema Cinco in that voice.
I can do it. Don't you dare.
Don't tempt him. Don't tempt him.
Challenge accepted.
So, our Cinema Cinco, Sean, if you want to do the honors, you can explain what the list is, and then we can launch into it.
I don't.
Of course, Sean Connery's being difficult.
Alright, no. I'll do this seriously. Okay, so basically what we're doing is, since keeping the theme of 4th of July...
I gotta make him do it to keep him
on
track.
Our Cinema Cinco, our top 5 patriotic moments in movie history.
Si, senor.
Alright, so let's start off with your number one.
I'm gonna do my number 5.
Oh, okay, fine.
I don't want to finish. I don't want to start with my top one.
Live free and die hard.
So I interpreted this as an opportunity to talk about either something specifically patriotic or something specifically American.
Die free and live hard. I just thought about that. Sorry.
I'm like, why is he having giggles? I didn't say anything funny.
Oh god.
Now I'm gonna start coughing. So each one you'll see as it goes that there's something specific to each movie that I particularly like. So it's a scene from Rocky. Actually, we were watching it before we started the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone loves Rocky for the film that it is, what it stands for. I mean, the training sequence in and of itself is very powerful. for me, I think the final 2 rounds, the very end of the movie,
Yes.
is a very patriotic scene. And it stems from the fact that, like, you hear the way that Apollo is talking about the fight leading up to it and how it's such an American fight. It's me, you know, it's David versus Goliath, the Italian stallion versus me. I mean, this whole, it's setting it up this way. And then the way that the film not unravels, but the film kind of progresses and ends is this really powerful sequence where it's not like an overtly, hey, he won, yeah, go America, underdog. It was split decision, kind of difficult to interpret, but you still felt very, like, validated by it. It was, I mean, that whole sequence to me is, I watched just the sequence, not having watched the whole movie in years, and I still got goosebumps and chills. It's awesome.
There's nothing more American than the Rocky story.
Oh, for sure.
And I left it out of my list because I knew you were going to bring it up.
Yeah, for sure.
And I that movie's just, it's inspiring. Like, I don't think there was ever a movie before that was able to, like, get you off your seat thinking that fight was real.
Right.
And there's nothing more American than, it doesn't matter how hard you get hit.
Just gotta keep getting up.
Yeah, keep getting up.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
You hear his voice. It's awesome. And for me, like, it came out right after the bicentennial. Like, it came out in 1976, 200 years after freaking Independence Day, the real Independence Day. Like, it takes place in Philadelphia. Like, there's something so inherently American about it. It's like, it's super patriotic. And how we got the movie made. Like, it's Sly Stallone doing all the, where he wrote the thing, he demanded he starred in it. Like, how American is that to be like, I'm gonna bet on myself and it's gonna work.
If you guys don't know the story of how Stallone got that movie made,
check that
it's
out,
an amazing
man. It's
story.
Incredible.
But yeah, dude, I lived in Philly for, like, a quick thing. Like, I lived in Philly for almost a year.
Is he like
everybody?
there?
Everybody there is Rocky. That's the thing. Like, there is all
blue
Italian.
collar.
Like, everybody. Like, how you doing? And then my name's Adrian. Like, come on. Like, seriously. Like, it's just like, I go down there for a pizza and be like, hey, I'm here for pickup.
I just spit take down the microphone.
Like, you Adrian? Yeah, I'm like, yes. Can you stand over there for a second? I stand far away. I'm like, I have no idea what's going on. Yo, Adrian! And I'm like, okay. Haven't heard that one before. Thank you.
He actually staged it. He was like, you gotta be far away from
No, but like, you know, like a typical, like, you know, like, towny kind of person. Yeah, but you never heard that one before.
He's still gonna do it.
I was like, oh gosh,
that's
thank you.
great. I actually did not connect that dot until you said that, which is really funny.
It's all good. My number 5 for Cinema Cinco. This guy is not American at all. The movie,
breaking the rules.
Not America. But you know what, man? It's very patriotic. It's a very humbling, very beautiful moment. As tragic as it is, William Wallace's death in Braveheart. Dude, like, when that guy, like, he's being tortured because, you know, he won't give up his fight.
Yeah.
And basically, the executioner that's there is basically saying, like, look, dude, just give up, and then we'll let you go. Just say that you'll never, you're not gonna fight for what you're fighting for anymore.
There's more important.
And then he's like being stretched out, like literally, like limb from limb, and was like, "Do you have anything else to say?" And he just yells out, "Freedom!"
It's powerful.
Like, it's so awesome, man. Like, there's nothing more patriotic than fighting for what you believe in, and that's what freedom's all about. And that movie, oh my God, Mel Gibson, I miss you, dude.
Vintage Mel Gibson.
I say what you want about how the guy is pretty bad for what he said and whatever. If you guys don't know,
no, he's had a pretty precipitous fall from grace.
Man, dude, I love that guy as a director. I miss him as an actor just because he had a presence about him.
Yeah.
Lethal Weapon, like, dude, like, yeah, I am crazy. It's like, oh man, you really are crazy. It's like, yeah, that's really cool.
Something in his eyes.
I loved him. But no, what's your number 4?
My number 4 is actually I think I've stuck with pretty much all American patriotism in mind, but
racist.
But there's a variety, so I think everyone can kind of agree with at least one of them.
It's all good.
My number 4, which I feel like maybe could have been higher, but I go with personal preference toward the top of the list, is the storming of Normandy in Saving Private Ryan. The first like 10 minutes.
Beautiful
of the movie.
Beautiful.
Incredible.
Movie.
I watched that when it actually came out. I didn't watch it in theaters. I think I wasn't too young to see it, but I don't think I would. My parents were like, you wouldn't understand it in that context.
You probably didn't have the attention
intense.
span for that.
Yeah, it would be too intense. I think it was just too realistic. It was shot almost like a documentary. I mean, that kind of handheld camera work, I don't think had even been done before in that context.
Not for a war movie, I wouldn't say.
No, not to make something that realistic.
No.
And it was
maybe Platoon, but I might
maybe,
be wrong.
but even then, it was super stylized.
The camera was totally was in position. It wasn't handheld. Yeah.
Exactly. And in this context, there was no music. I mean, to have John Williams in the chair and then to pull him away, there's something intentional to that. Yeah. And same thing with the T-Rex sequence in Jurassic Park. There's something to be said about taking away moments that could force your hand in scenes. Yeah. that 10-minute sequence was, to me, the first glimpse in film that I was moved by how tragic war was. Like, I hadn't seen Apocalypse Now yet. It was one of the first.
That's a different kind of war movie.
Yeah, that's a cerebrally broken movie. This was just one of those things where it's like there's still valor in what happened, but it's so sad that it happened. You know.
Would you count that as patriotic though?
I don't know if it necessarily in the context of just the scene, but what precedes it is you see Matt Damon's character older walking through.
Oh yeah,
the
that's
cemetery,
right.
And you just the two of them juxtaposed to each other. You appreciate
what they laid
how
down
grave it was. Yeah, and it's. I mean, I don't say whether or not I'm a proponent of war or anything like that, but something about World War II is very cinematic, and I think it was just really well done, and it's a bittersweet patriotic moment, but that was a very important part of the war, so I think it's worth noting.
That's cool. All right, my number 4 is actually not it's a war film.
Okay.
But it's not set on a battlefield. It's actually set on the streets, and it's literally an old man in a lawn chair just telling people, "Get off my lawn." Okay. Like, dude, Walt Kowalski, aka Clint Eastwood in Gran Torino, his death scene.
Okay.
Like, where he pretends to take out a gun, and he gets shot up by the guys because he knew that was the only way to kind of take these young punks down.
Yeah.
You know, basically, like, the reason I like that a lot, just because it's kind of like the essence of anything patriotic. You're defending what you believe in. You're defending your home, and that's what he's doing. He's defending his home front. Yeah, he's a racist.
Right. I mean,
he's a complete racist.
There, but...
Yeah, but like at the end of the day, he's defending for what he believes in, and he was defending these young kids because he knew that was the future of that neighborhood.
Yeah.
And he goes out and says, like, the poor guy has nothing left. His son is a joke. His family doesn't give a crap about him other than this really slick, cool-ass car that I would love to have. But, like, it was a very touching moment because you're just like you almost want to shed a tear for him because he did something. He was a war veteran. Yeah. And he did, like, the last noble deed. It was very Unforgiven, like, from, like, that movie.
Right.
It was, like, this total cool moment. And, honestly, I just wanted to hear him talk the entire time. Like, he swears a lot in this movie. He's like, "You fucking prick." There's like, the guy is just, I know I have the running joke with you. Like, imagine putting him, Sean Connery, Liam Neeson in a car ordering at McDonald's individually. Like,
I would be terrified as
I would,
the person on the other end.
It's like, you know, I can't do Liam Neeson, but imagine just like, I don't know who you are.
You need to get Liam Neeson down because
that's a tough one.
It's very subtle.
I could do a lot of people, but Liam Neeson is tough.
Especially if you get Good Cop, Bad Cop from.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, who's your number 3?
My number 3 is a specific scene. My last 3 are very 4th of July specific.
Yeah.
My number 3 scene is the shark attack from Jaws.
Oh.
It's not necessarily patriotic per se, but I wanted to make sure that I interpreted this category as something that wasn't just like you did. You did something that was patriotic but wasn't American. Yeah. I wanted to do something that was American but not necessarily always patriotic. I think what's good about that scene is that the bigger context of that movie was that it essentially created the summer blockbuster, which is incredibly American. I mean, look at what it's doing to world film markets around. I mean, China, all these movies that are coming out now, they're made to be broad enough to cover subtitled, context. So I think having a movie like that in this category is very important. And that sequence, it's terrifying, and you don't even see anything, which is awesome. And having that 4th of, like, when you think of the 4th of July, if it rains in your area and you can't go outside and enjoy any fireworks, watch Jaws. I mean, that in and of itself is patriotic because it's a great movie. That sequence on the 4th of July, it's terrifying. My husband doesn't even like going into the water anymore because of just that particular sequence. Yeah. So I mean, it maybe not fit. It doesn't maybe fit into the patriotic realm that we think of, but in terms of 4th of July sequences, I mean that's one of the best. So.
Nice. My number 3 will require no discussion because it is in fact one of the greatest
He's
American.
He's just gonna drop the mic and go.
One of the greatest American performances in the history of life. Harrison Ford as the president, Air Force One.
I was gonna put it.
That guy is. I'd vote the fuck out of him, man.
I was gonna put it.
Your move, Clinton. Like, bring it on. Get off my plane, dude. Like, that's it. I'm moving on. Just keep going.
I was gonna put it,
dude.
That was on my list, and I was like, no, he's gonna put it, so it's fine.
I've always wanted to say that to somebody behind me getting on a plane. It's like, hi, how you doing? Get off my plane.
Wait, what? Huh?
Yeah. President Ford. Wonder what he would have done.
Ugh, love Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
That was perfect casting. Good and bad guys.
Get off my plane.
I mean, enough said.
Seriously, get off my plane. All right, go ahead. What's your number 2?
I'm going to leave it there. My number 2 is one of my favorite movies from the 90s. I would love to do a retro of it. It's the Baseball After Dark sequence from The Sandlot.
Ooh.
So when I thought of like what's patriotic, to me
baseball.
was like baseball and nostalgia in general. And I feel like baseball may not be the current pastime, like current American pastime. Football obviously has overtaken it.
Yeah.
But when you think of like American nostalgia, like baseball fits into that image perfectly.
Very nice.
I mean, Benjamin Franklin Rodriguez, like, I mean, there's such subtle hints to just Americanism and patriotism, and I love that. For me, being half Cuban, I loved seeing, like, a Latin lead in a movie.
He was the stud of the movie.
Yeah, it was just cool, and people call him my doppelganger, so that's cool. If you guys ever see a picture of me without my glasses on, it looks just like Benjamin Franklin Rodriguez. But that's not my fun fact. I think that sequence I just watched it again today just to kind of remind myself. Ray Charles singing America, like, come on, like.
That's pretty cool.
It's gorgeous with the fireworks. They all stopped playing except Benjamin Franklin Rodriguez was just running around the bases, just like being a boss. Like, it's just such a good scene, and I grew up playing softball, so like I loved that movie as a kid. So that's my number 2, probably mostly for just the nostalgia factor.
Cool.
But.
And number 2 for me is a scene from the Bible. No, it's not. It's Bruce Willis's death in Armageddon.
Oh,
dude,
yes!
That movie is the most American.
Good.
Like, the way foreigners think of America, they think of the movie Armageddon.
Oh,
it's like, we need to send somebody to space to fix our stuff. Send these oil guys. Not astronauts.
No.
Oil guys.
Absolutely.
And then, like, Bruce Willis totally should have let Ben Affleck die. But, dude, like, when he totally locks it up, he's like, take care of my daughter. I'm like,
That, like, destroyed me as a kid.
Dude,
it destroyed me.
That's a beautiful American moment. But what's your number 1?
Oh, my number. I mean, it's got to be your number 1. If it's not, I'm going to be incredibly surprised. It has a president in it.
Oh, I already know what it is. Go.
It's the president's speech from Independence Day.
Yes, sir.
It has to be. I mean, I pulled each one of these scenes and watched them independent of the movie just to see, like, does it work?
Pun!
But, I mean, if you can make Randy Quaid and Bill Pullman epic in 3 minutes, like, that's incredible. That's amazing. But I watched it on its own.
Yeah.
And, like, of course, I remember the movie. I've seen it a billion times, but, like, hyperbole. Probably seen it, like, 6-7 times.
I love that movie.
So I know what's going on in the context of that scene, but just, like, the way he's, like, walking with his advisors, and he's like, they look scared. They look young. And I was like, he's about to do something awesome.
Oh, man.
And he just gets up there and says,
Get on the
like,
truck.
Oh, my God.
Get on the bullhorn.
It's just so, it's over the top. It's just dripping.
It just, like, the fact that it's, like, boiled over, not just being America's Independence Day, but the world's Independence Day.
It's so...
Take that, planet Earth.
It's so arrogant. Yeah. It's so American to be like, yeah, we're the ones.
The shot of the dude, like, everybody had the same reaction as the dude they cut to right after. The dude that's, like, saluting the shit out of him. He's like, fuck yeah, man! I'm sorry, I'm cursing a lot today.
The crap out of
I'm not even going on the plane!
Yeah,
somebody get me a wrench!
He's just the guy that moves the blocks before the plane moves. He's so amped.
But that was fun. That was my number 1. No, that's honestly one of the best things ever. And, yeah, but now our next segment is, this is the thing. We want you guys to like send us more questions via Twitter, Facebook, even our Gmail account, which is exitonlytheater@gmail.com.
Great self-scam.
You know, just hit us up, send us a question. We're willing to answer your questions, and we actually got questions this week.
We do. So,
the first question to me came from Nate Ski on Facebook.
Nice.
Asking, is like, guys, love the show. Like, thank you, really appreciate it.
Long-time listener, first-time caller.
Yeah, love the show. The question for you is, why do they keep adapting video games to films if they haven't been working? Now, I'll answer that by saying, look, yeah, everybody's seen, well, no, thank God, nobody's seen Super Mario Brothers from the early 90s, because that's one of the worst films ever, let alone,
It's a terrible movie.
It's a terrible movie.
I love it.
But that being said, you know, it's like anything. Like, when people were adapting, you know, when they were adapting comic book films, like, oh, how can you adapt such a childish medium, quote unquote? Then you make Richard Donner make Superman for the first time. You're like, that was really beautiful. That was terrific.
You can turn a genre on its ear, then
you've
done something cool.
It's really cool. So I don't rule out, like, we're still in the early phase. Video games have only been around for how long? Less than 40 years?
And campaign-specific, storyline-driven ones haven't been
so,
around
like, now we're getting, like, the first-person shooter games, all these really cool storylines. And we're getting a lot of good movies. Like Mortal Kombat, the first one was actually not that bad of a movie.
Right.
They did a decent job with it. Yeah, the sequel was terrible. Resident Evil, the first one, pretty decent movie. The rest of them were garbage because you're digging for stories.
Tomb Raider.
So it's like Tomb Raider. Yeah, well, it has a sequel.
They cast it perfectly.
They cast a really good job. But like, I'll answer that with this. Like, look, these are a list of movies that are based on video games that are being made that will be released soon.
Out yet. Okay.
And I'll run these really quick. Assassin's Creed, great video game. Guess who's producing that, starring in it, and helping putting that together? Michael Fassbender. That's a pretty big name. And guess who we got to recruit to be in that movie? Marion Cotillard.
I mean, that's
Oscar-winning Marion Cotillard.
Perfect cast idea. Like that's
production set to begin early for this fall, and the release date's for December of next year.
Which, if you're making an adaptation of a video game, and you're releasing it at the end of the year. That takes gall, because at the end of the year, that's Oscar bait season.
That's Oscar bait season. Like, even though this may not be an Oscar bait movie, but it's definitely a temple for Christmas. Yeah, and it's like let's get that in there. Absolutely. Obviously, I told you about earlier Rampage. The Rock's doing that one. Yep. So that's as big an action star as you could have. Splinter Cell. Guess who's doing that one? Tom Hardy is producing that, trying to get that together. And it's being co-written by Doug Liman, who will probably be directing the movie. And guess what movie he directed? Edge of Tomorrow with Tom Cruise, which was an excellent action movie.
So good. If you haven't seen that, go see that movie.
Yeah,
it's
and
so fun.
Other people that have worked on the script, Eric Warren Singer, for those of you who don't know, he wrote American Hustle. Then also helped written by Shelton Turner, who also wrote Up in the Air. That's a movie you love a lot.
I do love that
so
movie. Think
about that. And Tom Hardy's gone on record saying, look, whenever the studio okays the script, we're ready to shoot. We're ready to go.
That's awesome.
And another movie, Warcraft, has been into production or not. This one's actually going to be, I think it's going to be a monster movie. This is going to make a ton of money. It's expensive to make, but it's going to make a ton of money. It's being directed by Duncan Jones, who directed the movie Moon with Sam Rockwell. If you haven't seen it, watch it. So also directed Source Code with Jake Gyllenhaal. Underrated movie. And that's starring my favorite unknown actor right now, Travis Fimmel. If you guys haven't seen Vikings, please watch Vikings. It's such a good show.
He's been stumping that for me for a while.
That guy is such a terrific actor. And he's in this movie. This is his first major film that I think he's going to be in.
That's exciting.
And Dominic Cooper's in this movie, Ben Foster, Paula Patton.
And Ben Foster, I feel like he's always good in everything.
He's good in everything. And this is the kind of movie he could shine in, because he's definitely doing voice work, he's doing motion capture work. Because think about it, they finished this movie, ILM's working on the effects.
Awesome.
So that's the best of the best. Filming began in 2014, ended in May. They've been in post-production since. And what that means, a lot of people are if you don't know movies, especially ones with effects, you're like, oh, well, they're probably trying to fix the movie. No. There's a lot of effects in the movie. And they're taking their time. Like, you and I are shooting a Star Wars thing for our show eventually in December. We're going to start shooting probably as soon as August comes, because we want to get the effects down.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's why it takes the time. So the thing is, there's all these are probably going to be announced at Comic-Con, so watch out for our Comic-Con special show, which will be coming out probably in a couple weeks. So
looking forward to it.
That's the thing. Video games can work. It's just it's an early medium. Take your time, relax. We'll get it right. Hollywood will get it right.
I think not the problem, but the dilemma with making video game movies is the fact that video games are so interactive, and they allow an environment for which you can interact and actually participate and become one of the storyline. Movies essentially are inherently not that experience. You watch a movie. You might be invested in what's going on, but you can't physically interact with what's in front of you. Yeah. So the challenge is making something as dynamic as something that you're literally in the middle of. Yeah. I think that's what people have a struggle with. You know? So I think that's if the quality of the cast can pull something like that off for all of those movies, I'm excited for it. But that's, I think, where the skepticism comes from. So
thank you for your question, Nancy. I hope that answered it. Yep. What's your question?
Jared from Southington. He had a simple question. He wanted to make sure that we brought up the loss of James Horner last week. The news broke right after our last week's episode, so we didn't get a chance to talk about it.
Yeah, we were in Vermont. I remember that.
We were. But the question from Jared is, and thank you, Jared, for your question, what was your favorite James Horner score? I don't know exactly what mine is, but my first one that comes to mind that I think played a very important part of the movie is A Beautiful Mind.
Okay.
The score of that movie, because that's such a cerebral film, and I think the music is it's poignant, but it's a bittersweet score. Sometimes it goes minor, major. It just flows really well with that movie, and I love that movie. So I think that's one of my favorites.
Personally, for me, and this is the thing, a lot of people, you assume, a music composer or someone that puts together the music for a movie. You're like, those are big, epic, really Oscar-worthy movies. This guy also started his career by doing Star Trek. He did a Star Trek film.
Yeah.
And that was a beautiful score. That's the thing. It's not so much about creating a memorable song, but about setting mood and like setting up the scene. That's the thing. Like you could make a great tune like Star Wars that everybody will always remember, but there are the little moments that you're just like you create the world through music, and that's what he did. He was one of the greats, and it's really sad that he left.
Absolutely, but we're glad we got a chance to talk about him, and he had his hand in over 100 films, so it's cool to just give him a little shout out and sorry for the loss, but.
All right. But again, we want to say, please send your questions to our Facebook, Twitter, or Gmail account, and we'll answer them on the show. So our last, that
reminds me though, we need to make sure that they know, our audience, that we're having a little bit of a dilemma for next week's show, and I think that might be a good way to bring up the fact that we don't know if we should watch.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Here's the thing, and this is mostly a me problem because. So this week, as you know, we have two big movies that are in demand that are opening. You got Terminator Genisys, directed by Alan Taylor, and sets the return of Arnold Schwarzenegger in the title role as the Terminator. Mm-hmm. And then we have the other movie, it's Magic Mike. It's Magic Mike XXL. And this is the thing. Like originally, we're like, look, a lot of people are going to be talking about Terminator. We're gonna review that movie. Right now, initial critic reviews, they don't really give detailed reviews, but they're tweeting out like, this is a movie you need to watch.
It's not bad.
So we kind of obviously I've never saw the first one because it doesn't interest me. I'm not the target audience. There you go. But I'm all for seeing a movie that people one are going to talk about, and two is a quality movie. Terminator Genisys, as much as I love Terminator, it looks like it sucks. But at the same time, I know I need to see it because I want to prove it for myself. So I want to open it up to you. Audience. What should we see? Terminator Genisys or Magic Mike XXL? Please give us your thoughts. And if I have to see, if I have to see, Channing Tatum shake his fucking face thing in my face, I'll have to do it because we do it for you. Damn it. Fuck.
Honestly, I saw the first one. It's in my wheelhouse. That's the kind of movie that not the kind of movie I would particularly enjoy, but
it's a dirty wheelhouse.
It's the audience that they're going for. So I was like, I'll see it. Actually, the first one was not a bad movie. It's a fairly good movie. It's just it's like the way Boogie Nights is sold. They're like, oh, Boogie Nights is a movie about the porn industry. It's not. It's actually a family movie. It's not a family movie, but it's a movie about a family.
A naked family movie.
It's a movie about a dysfunctional family that just happens to have the porn industry around it.
My question is, did you watch it on mute?
Magic Mike?
Yes.
No.
Okay.
Should I have? I don't understand the basis of that question.
I'll leave that to myself.
Okay. I'm glad that I'm not on the same page as him.
But yes, we're opening it up to you guys. Please, let us know what movie would you want us to review, and whether it be Magic Mike, the sequel, XXL, or Terminator Genisys.
I'm open to seeing one, the other, both, whatever we need to do to make sure that we've covered everything we need to cover. But I have a feeling it's gonna be Magic Mike.
Yeah. All right. So here we are entering our last segment here, and this is trivia. Now, I would let you go first.
Okay, mine's just really short and sweet.
Cool.
Keeping in the 4th of July theme.
Yes.
Something a little bit of an honorable mention to my Cinema Cinco was the fact, and this was never going to make my list. But, I was looking up, trying to find lists online just to kind of help jog my memory of what scenes I could use.
Yeah.
If we were going to stick to the 4th of July theme a little more strictly.
Yeah.
The Overlook Hotel ball in The Shining happened on July 4th. So the last shot of the movie is July 4th, Overlook Hotel ball, and it's the creepy shot of Jack Nicholson.
Is so neat.
And you're kind of wondering what happened in that ball, because that's what happened. That's what sets everything in motion. It's just like this weird cycle. I thought that was kind of cool. I was like, well, I can't include that in my list, but I gotta mention it.
That's one of my top 5 favorite movies.
So good.
And that's a good catch. I've never thought about that.
So it's kind of, and it also happens in Zodiac, that one of the first murders is on 4th of July.
You're just naming off all my favorite movies.
See, he's got a dark mind, but they're very good films. So.
Alright, so my trivia actually has to go back to The Rock. I've talked about The Rock pretty much all day today.
Hinting at a theme here.
There's The Rock posted to his Instagram today that he got a fan letter. And not just any fan letter, probably the fan letter.
So
he got a fan letter from Steven Spielberg.
Oh my God.
Of all people, who would have thought he would watch a Rock movie? But this is what he said in his letter. Been enjoying your movies over the years, very entertaining. I feel like I've really gotten to know you over the years. Most recently after watching you host Saturday Night Live. Great job. You continue to go for it. Proud of your work and look forward to meeting you. Steven Spielberg.
Wait. So, okay, what I took away from this just now is the fact that I, through work, have met The Rock before Steven Spielberg did. Oh my god! sorry. Just fun fact, he has giant hands, but just keep going.
It looks like we're going to be watching Magic Mike, guys. Oh god.
He's not in it, though. That would be so much better.
But no, just a little bit of trivia. I figured, let's
awesome.
kind of talk about his film career. The Rock was actually the second choice to play Willy Wonka in Tim Burton's Charlie and the Chocolate Factory in 2003. Yeah. I don't know if that's true, but because like Johnny Depp will do anything that guy asks him to do, Tim Burton. But
I don't
that's
think
an
there would
interesting
ever
choice.
have been a second choice.
I don't think there would have been a second choice.
That's weird.
But coincidentally, going back to what Steven Spielberg did, guess what his first movie experience was? Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Really?
So think about that. That's the first movie you ever saw, and now you're a big success, and who's the guy that says, hey dude, I think I love you?
I don't know. I mean, I would immediately post it on Instagram like he did.
Yeah, he did.
That's exactly what I would have done.
He's grinning from ear to ear. If you haven't seen the picture, Google it. Follow him on Instagram because he has he loves his fans. I think he's awesome. But that's all I have for today.
Yeah.
But the one thing I want to say before I leave, before we both sign off, is please hit us up on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Just if you have a question, it doesn't matter what it's about. If you're like, hey, what's your favorite movie dealing with food? And we'll talk about it.
The more random, the better, honestly.
Yeah, because we'll generate discussion. So, yeah. That's all I got.
All right.
This was fun.
Yeah, this is a different format from our usual first two episodes. I hope you guys enjoy. Let us know what you think.
Whoop.
Like he said, hit us up on every mode that you can think of.
Find
me. Sean Connery may or may not answer those questions. So just keep posted. We'll let us. We'll let you know on social media what movie we're gonna watch.
Oh yeah.
We'll give you a heads up. So
but
that
please
you
get
can
at
look
us because
forward to
we really want to know what you guys want us to
no
review.
idea what to do.
Because whether it be naked dudes or Arnold as a robot.
Also, I think there might be two naked Arnolds fighting, so that could be interesting. Or there'll be one naked Arnold.
Well, I bet
the other
he,
old Arnold won't be naked. That wouldn't make any sense.
He would get off to that.
On that note,
yes.
We're going to sign off. For JP Lee and Adrian, we are going to... No, that's a terrible ending. I'm going to have to cut that. We started terrible.
Let's end terrible. Look.
No.
Alright, I'll set you up. I'll set you up.
Toss it. I got to spike it.
This was the Exit Only Theater. Thank you very much for joining us, and this is JP Lee.
We'll see you when the credits roll.
Uh-huh.
That was awful.